Okay, so I need to record a video for this particular blog entry. So I decided that I would record mine about my top 11 villains, which just seemed like, the right choice. So I'm going to start at the least villainous and work my way up to the most evil. And so that's how I have it ordered, in terms of least evil to most evil. And originally I was going to try and work in some real life villains as well, but that just didn't seem like it was going to work out because it's really hard to square them all together, as I'm sure you can understand. So anyway, I'll get started here. So my first villain on this ranking is actually two people, Boris and Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle, which if you haven't seen, you probably should because it's awesome. But anyway, so they work for their fearless leader to represent the great country of Pottsylvania to try and thwart Moose and Squirrel all the time, and they're very inept at being villains, and so you sort of have to love them for that, because they don't really know what they're doing, but they are very villainous, and so you have to give them credit. Alright, so after that, I have to go with Barbossa from specifically the first Pirates movie, because he's not really a villain after that point, but I just really enjoy Geoffrey Rush, so he's not especially evil, but he does a good job portraying himself as a real villain. So then, moving on to number 9, I'm going to go with another Rocky and Bullwinkle villain, although he's actually really the villain of Dudley Do-Right, which is a different little subset of Rocky and Bullwinkle. So number 9 is Snidely Whiplash, whose famous tagline is "Curses foiled again," which you may or may not be familiar with. And he's a pretty cool guy. He's very, I don't know, he's pretty villainous. You have to give him his due. And he's also green, which is a fun little fact. So then number 8 is the Baroness Rodramilla de Ghent in Ever After, which I really love, don't judge. And she's played by Angelica Houston, and she's just one of the meanest people you will ever see. And is just wonderful, and she has such great lines as, "How could anyone love Pebble in their shoe?" And yeah, you want to hate her, but you have to love her for doing such a good job. And then number 7 is the husband in the Hitchcock movie Dial M for Murder, whose name is Tony Wendis, and he's played by the actor Roy Milland. And he's this really nasty guy who just decides that because his wife is being unfaithful, it's time to kill her. So he hires someone to do that job for him, and of course it doesn't work out like that. But I don't know, he's a pretty nasty guy. And then, so then number 6, who's more evil than that, is Angela Lansbury's portrayal of Mrs. Iselin in The Manchurian Candidate, she's this really conniving lady who's trying to unite with the communists and bring down the Western world, specifically the United States government, and of course, the person they end up brainwashing to achieve that end ends up being her son, but because she's all evil and shit, she doesn't really care that much. And I don't know, she gives me the chills, which is especially frightening since she is also Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. Number 5 is sort of your quintessential villain, Big Brother, from 1984, because he's watching you, and I don't know, but I couldn't rank him as the worst villain of all time, because he is, I guess, sort of misguided, because there are, real goals that Big Brother and his government are sort of trying to institute. So, I don't know. Pretty evil and pretty creepy, but not the worst. Then number 4 is Mom from Futurama, because she's just wonderfully evil. As you may or may not know if you watch that show, which you should. And look, I'm running out of time. So then after that, number 3 is the Borg Queen from Star Trek, she's pretty evil, but also very attractive, so you have to give her due, because she does her evil seduction very successfully. Then number 2 is pretty damn obvious, it's Voldemort, because, he's pretty damn evil, but also very well developed, so you have to give him credit for that. And finally, my worst villain of all time is Jadis, from specifically The Magician's Nephew, is where she's introduced, but she's in the whole Narnia series, and she's just basically Satan incarnate, so I think she has to get the award for worst villain of all time. So yeah, that was my first video. I hope you enjoyed it.